When people say an octopus is intelligent, the phrase almost always sounds flattering and incomplete at the same time. It is flattering because the animal really does solve problems, open containers, exploit gaps, recognize patterns, and behave in ways that look uncannily deliberate. But it is incomplete because the word intelligent invites us to imagine a familiar kind of mind wearing an unfamiliar body. That is not what an octopus is. An octopus is what happens when evolution arrives at flexible, exploratory, problem-solving behavior on a body plan almost nothing like our own. No bones, no long childhood, no primate-style social world, no mammalian path to a large, centralized brain. And yet there it is, a creature that can manipulate logs, carry future shelter across the sea floor, escape tanks, investigate new objects, and change its own appearance with such speed that it looks less like camouflage and more like active computation made visible. One of the best-known examples involves octopuses carrying coconut shell halves or other portable shelter across the seabed. The behavior looks comical at first, almost like underwater slapstick. But what makes it so important is the timing. The animal is doing something inconvenient now for a benefit it expects later. That is not just reflex. It suggests a form of future-oriented behavior, an ability to treat an object not only as a thing in the present, but as a solution waiting for a future problem. Scientists rightly debate the exact labels. Is it tool use in the strictest sense, or an advanced form of shelter transport? The argument matters less than the principle revealed by the action. The octopus is not merely reacting to danger once danger has already arrived. It is preparing before the threat exists. That alone should force us to rethink how narrow our old assumptions about invertebrate minds really were. The deeper you go into octopus biology, the stranger that intelligence becomes. Much of the nervous system is not concentrated in the head. An octopus has a substantial brain, but a huge fraction of its neurons are distributed through its arms. Each arm can process information locally and coordinate complex motion without every detail being micromanaged centrally. This does not mean each arm is a separate mind, but it does mean control is radically more decentralized than invertebrates. The animal does not simply command 8 passive appendages, it negotiates with them. Its intelligence is embodied in a way that is difficult for humans to picture, because we do not think with our limbs in anything like the same degree. Add to that the fact that the suckers can both feel and chemically sample surfaces, and the octopus starts to look like an organism that experiences the world through an unusually blended set of senses. Touch and taste for it are entangled. Its circulation is just as strange. Octopuses have 3 hearts, and their blood is blue because oxygen is carried by copper-based hemocyanin rather than iron-based hemoglobin. That chemistry works especially well in cold, low-oxygen marine conditions. 2 hearts pump blood through the gills, while the systemic heart serves the rest of the body. During sustained swimming, that systemic heart becomes less effective, which is one reason octopuses often prefer crawling, squeezing, and short bursts of jet propulsion over continuous, fast travel. Even at the level of basic physiology, the octopus is not built like the streamlined fish we usually picture when we think about marine life. It is a control-oriented animal, not an endurance specialist. It solves its problems with flexibility, stealth, and bursts of decision, not by dominating the water column through speed alone. Then there is the skin, which is arguably one of the most astonishing surfaces in the animal kingdom. Octopus skin contains chromatophores, as well as reflective structures such as iridophores and leucophores, allowing rapid changes in color, contrast, and light interaction. In many species, papillae can also alter the skin's texture, producing bumps or ridges that make the body resemble rock, algae, or coral. This is often described as camouflage, and that is true, but the word can be too passive. An octopus is not just fading into a background the way a printed pattern does. It is actively reconstructing its outer appearance in real time. Some species go further still. The mimic octopus and related forms can deploy body postures and movement patterns that resemble entirely different animals, from sea snakes to lionfish to flatfishes. At that point, the animal is not simply hiding. It is shaping what another nervous system believes it is seeing. What makes all this even more surprising is how short an octopus life usually is. Many species live only 1 or 2 years. For humans, that feels like a contradiction. We are used to linking behavioral sophistication with long development, long social learning, and long lives. Octopuses compress a great deal into a short existence. They grow rapidly, learn rapidly, and in many species, die soon after reproduction. Females may guard eggs for weeks or months, cleaning and ventilating them, often eating little or nothing, until they are exhausted and die after the young hatch. It is one of the most extreme forms of reproductive investment in the sea. So here again, the animal violates our intuitive expectations. A complex, curious, behaviorally plastic life is not always attached to a long biography. Evolution found another route. That point matters because cephalopods represent one of the clearest examples of complex cognition evolving independently from the vertebrate line. Intelligence, in the broad sense of flexible information processing and problem-solving behavior, did not appear only once on Earth. It emerged along at least one very different path as well. That does not mean an octopus thinks like a human. In many ways, it probably thinks in ways we can only partially reconstruct. But its existence demonstrates something profound. Advanced behavior is not the private property of animals with skeletons, hands, and mammalian childhoods. It can emerge in a solitary mollusk whose body is soft enough to flow through a crack, and whose ancestors took a completely different road through evolutionary history. There is even molecular evidence that this lineage plays by unusual rules. Cephalopods, including octopuses, show remarkably extensive RNA editing in nervous system tissues. In simple terms, the instructions copied from genes can be modified after transcription in ways that may fine-tune neural function. Researchers continue to debate exactly what trade-offs and advantages this strategy produces, but the broad picture is clear enough. The octopus is unusual not only in visible behavior, but also in the molecular flexibility associated with its nervous system. Popular media often call octopuses aliens. That is a cliché, but it points towards something real. The animal is not extraterrestrial. It is simply a reminder that evolution can reach sophisticated outcomes using design choices that are largely absent from our own lineage. All of this would already make octopuses scientifically extraordinary. But their behavior in captivity drives the point home for many people. They have opened jars from the inside, escaped aquaria through tiny holes, learned routes, manipulated valves, and in some facilities, apparently recognized particular keepers. Some reports clearly contain a layer of human storytelling, so caution is necessary. Yet the pattern is too consistent to dismiss. Octopuses do not behave like creatures locked into a narrow set of fixed responses. They explore, they test, they improvise. In engineering terms, they're not limited to a small action library. They seem able to build context-sensitive responses on the fly. That is exactly the kind of capacity humans tend to reserve for animals we emotionally regard as cognitively important. The body explains a lot of that. An octopus is soft, vulnerable, and astonishingly free form. Without a rigid skeleton, it can compress through openings that seem impossible for its size. Without protective armor, it relies on evasion, concealment, speed in short bursts, venom, dexterous arms, and a sharp beak. It is a predator, but not one protected by heavy defenses. That means it survives by maintaining an information advantage over its environment. It has to read spaces, textures, prey behavior, and threats with unusual richness. Its intelligence is not a luxury sitting on top of the body. It is a continuation of what the body needs. A soft, exposed animal in a complex three-dimensional habitat benefits enormously from being able to model possibilities rather than repeat one script. Even its rest appears strange. Observations suggest octopuses cycle through quiet and active sleep-like states. And during the more active phases, their skin patterns can shift rapidly, as if internal neural events are playing out across the body. Scientists are careful about overinterpreting these phases, but the resemblance to dynamic sleep states in vertebrates is tantalizing. Once again, we find a familiar function expressed through an unfamiliar architecture. That may be the best single sentence for the entire animal. With octopuses, we keep recognizing what a system seems to be doing, while being repeatedly forced to admit that it is doing it by means we did not expect. Their movement has also become a model for robotics and biomechanics. For engineers, a soft body with 8 highly flexible arms is not a simple control problem. It is a nightmare of degrees of freedom. And yet, the octopus manages it continuously. It does not just survive despite softness. It turns softness into capability. That is why researchers interested in soft robotics study octopus arms so closely. The point is not to imitate the animal aesthetically. The point is to understand how control can emerge in bodies that are not built from rigid levers and joints. In that sense, the octopus is not only a subject of marine biology. It is a living argument that intelligence and effective action do not require the mechanical assumptions humans usually build into machines. There is also an ethical consequence to all this. The more evidence accumulates for flexible behavior, rich sensation, problem-solving, and complex neural processing in cephalopods, the harder it becomes to treat them as simple, expendable invertebrates in research and captivity. Some legal frameworks already recognize this shift by extending welfare considerations to cephalopods in ways that would once have seemed unnecessary. That change is historically significant. Very few animals have forced humans to redraw their moral categories by being so clearly unlike us, and yet so evidently not simple. The octopus has done exactly that. So when someone says an octopus is smart, the better response is yes, but that is only the surface of the story. The real marvel is that intelligence here arrived through an utterly different biological route. Different blood chemistry, different motor logic, different body architecture, different lifespan, different sensory priorities, different developmental strategy, different evolutionary history. And still, the result is a creature that plans, explores, adapts, deceives, and learns. It does not look like an alternate human. It looks like proof that nature can build sophisticated minds more than one way. And that may be the most unsettling and beautiful thing about it. The octopus does not merely impress us, it widens the category of what a mind can be. The octopus therefore matters far beyond marine curiosity. It is a stress test for human assumptions. We like intelligence that resembles our own because it is easy to narrate. Family groups, long childhoods, faces, hands, recognizable emotions, social learning. The octopus offers something less comfortable. It is solitary far more than social, short-lived rather than long-lived, soft rather than upright, distributed rather than centralized. And still it reaches a level of behavioral flexibility that demands respect. That combination is why scientists, philosophers, and ordinary viewers keep returning to it. The animal is forcing a conceptual upgrade. It asks whether intelligence is best understood not as a single lineage's achievement, but as a recurring solution that evolution may rediscover whenever survival begins to depend on rapid, adaptable control in a world too complicated for rigid instincts alone. And once you begin to see the octopus that way, even its weirdest features stop seeming random. The color-changing skin is not spectacle. The distributed nervous system is not a curiosity. The short life is not a contradiction. The exploratory behavior is not a party trick. All of them fit together. This is an animal built to survive through flexible response under constant uncertainty. Its body is a fluid tool set. Its senses are unusually blended. Its cognition is deeply embodied, and its behavior is shaped by a world full of cracks, ambushes, fleeting opportunities, and predators that punish hesitation. The octopus looks impossible, only because it reminds us that our own form of intelligence was never the only possible destination. Nature reached something mind-like again, and this time it arrived wrapped in muscle, color, and 8 restless arms.